initial node as 1. So I'm going to implement BFS, a simple BFS. So here I'm going to say 1 is inserted as the first node. Then what is the second node that I have to insert in the queue? So the question says, the answer says the predecessors or the child nodes of 1 must be inserted in the queue. So it can be in any order. It can be as 2, 4, or it can be as 4 and 2. So probably let us assume whatever order we want, we'll put it as 2 and 4, or 4 and 2 is also perfectly fine. Okay, so once the child of 1 is inserted, then what is the next step that I have to do?
Child of 2.
Yeah, so should I not remove 1? So I have to remove 1. Okay, so first in, first out. Okay, so I'm going to remove 1 out. So I've drawn a node here. Then I have to take the first in here, which is 2. So now I have to insert the child of 2. So what is the child of 2 here? It is 3. So 3 I have put. Then the next step is what? I have to take 2. Yeah, 2 child node of 2 is 3. So that is done. So the next step is I have to remove 2 from the list. Correct? So when I remove 2 from the list, what happens to that 2 here? It actually goes as child node to 2 here. Correct? So it goes as child node to 2. So I put a 2 here, and I'm also putting a line here. Okay. Then what is the next step? I have to check 4. So does 4 have any child nodes? Actually, yes, it has a child node of 3 and 1, but then 3 and 1, they're already visited. So I don't have to visit them again. So I just remove 4 from the queue. So once I remove 4, I have to add it to this list. So adding it means I'm adding it here. So 4 is added to the list. So that is also done. Next step, what should I do? I have to go to 3. So what is the child node of 3? The child nodes are nothing but 6 and 5. So I can put it in any order I want. So I'm just putting it as five and 6 entered. Then what should I do? I should just add, I have to remove 3 from this queue list. So where should I add it? I have to add it to
child of 4 and 2.
Okay. Now should it be child of 4 and 2, or should it be child of 4 alone?
When we took it as a child of 2, right?
Yeah. So see, when I first started adding 1, 2 and 4 were added. Then 1 was added to this diagram, right? When 1 was removed, then 2 I added. So the child of 2 was 3, right? So as a child of 2 only, I inserted 3 here, only 3. Okay. Then I removed 2. Then for 4, I've inserted the child as no, nothing. So 4, I'll just leave it just like that. And for 2 only, I've put a line saying 3 was inserted as a child of 2. Correct? So 2, okay. Then 3 is done. For 4, you have the child nodes as 5 and 6. Okay. No, no, no. Child nodes of 3 is 5 and 6, right? But then you have to remove 5. So how do you remove 5? 5 was added as a child node of 3, right? So I just remove 5 from this list and add it as a child node of 3. That is one part. Then coming to 6, I have to remove 6, which means I have to add it. I will remove 6, and that 6 is a child node of 3. So as a result, I have to disable this. Okay. 6 is done, and then these are the child nodes of this. Now, here you can find a loop, but then here it is a complete spanning tree. So this complete spanning tree, we are going to call it as BFS spanning tree. Okay, and now if in between they say that something else is a goal node, right? So say for example, they introduce 3 as your goal node. In that case, what will happen? You just have to you just have to show the BFS tree till this point only. And even here, after 1, 2, 4, 3, you'll just show the sequence as 1, 2, 4, 3, and then you will stop without proceeding to the other nodes. Once it is visited, once you say that the goal node is found, then you have to just stop. This condition applies if and only if you have only one particular goal node. If you have more than one goal node, say for example 3 and 6, then probably you have to you have to go until you find all the goal nodes. That's all. So this is all about your BFS. So given a complete graph, you have to convert it into a spanning tree with the help of your queue implementation. Now coming to the complexity for this, what would be the complexity? Say for example, in this particular queue, at any point, so since I have how many child nodes I have at the max? So in this particular spanning tree, yeah, 2. So just keep it as 2. So I call this as a binary I don't call it as a I call it as a binary BFS spanning tree. Okay, if your number of nodes, if your number of child nodes, if it is maximum 3, then you call it as tertiary and so on, right? So in particular, you're going to call it as k-array binary BFS search tree. Okay. Now the algorithm goes as such. Since you're implementing it in the form of a queue, the maximum is going to be B to the power of D. The space complexity, let us first look into it. So it is going to be theta of B to the power of D. So what is this theta? First of all, we have seen many asymptotic notations in data structures. Why do we particularly choose theta here? So it's neither the low, it lies between the two bounds. Okay. Say for example, if you have n squared plus 1 or n squared plus 10, what would be the asymptotic notation? In asymptotic notation, theta, how do you represent n squared plus 10 or n squared plus 100? Can I conveniently ignore 100 and just call it as n squared, right? So here, though you're constructing this, and each step you're using a search. So what happens here is at each step you're going to actually perform some operation, and then plus 1 is nothing but your search operation. And similarly, why should I use theta? That's our next question. If I ask you, what is the asymptotic notation? How do you express in asymptotic notation the value of n cube plus 5n squared plus 1000. How do you express? Can we
N square.
no, no. The overall value is n cube plus 10n squared plus 100. So you have a cube term, you have a square term, and you have a constant term. So in that case, it should always be the upper limit, right? It should always be n cube. Okay. So that should be the, taking the higher order will represent your, you can conveniently avoid the lower orders. That is, if you put it as n cube, then the n squared and the constant term, that can be ignored. That is the main purpose of going for a theta notation. Okay. So now let us assume we are going to use only theta notations for all the time and space complexities. Now, if you take this particular example, when I put it as b to the power of d, okay, so here what happens is d is nothing but your depth of the tree, and b is nothing but your number of arrays, right? If you put you have k array, which means say for example you have 3 links, 3 child nodes, then you call it as the number of array you're going to, k value is going to be 3. Okay, so in this particular case, this is binary, so you have 2 to the power of d. So what is d here? The depth. So d is equal to 1. At the second step, d is equal to 2, and at the third level, d is equal to 3. So 2 to the power of 3. So this simply means that you have to calculate it as 2 to the power of 3, which is 8. I'm talking about only space complexity. Okay, so this space complexity, okay, that simply means that at any particular point in time, okay, for each and every node, right, you can have maximum of 8 child nodes or 8 leaf nodes. This is what this simply means. So if you say you have 3 links, 3 child nodes, then it's going to be 3 to the power of 3, 27. In one particular point in time, the queue can hold that much size of the values that would be stored in the memory. Okay, so this is what is space complexity. For the same problem, we'll now look into the space complexity using the stack approach. Okay, so when I say stack, so what is the data structure that I'm going to use? So what is the data structure? So this is going,
could you explain this part along how the space complexity of this? Could you repeat that?
Stack is a data structure.
yeah, okay. Yes, ma'am?
Stack is a data structure we're doing DFS.
Yeah.
Yes.
No, I'm going to do DFS only now. This is for BFS.
No, you said what is the data structure for stack? So I said stack is the data structure and DFS we're going to apply.
Oh, fine. Sorry. The data structure, what I'm going to draw here is a stack, and I'm going to explain a DFS here. Okay, so we'll compare both the time complexity for BFS, space complexity for BFS and DFS now. Okay, give me just 1 minute. Okay. Now, after I teach DFS, probably you can. 3, 5, 6. Okay. Now, the starting node is what? 1. What are the operations of DFS? The stack. You can either push one particular element at a time, or push X, or it is going to be a pop operation, right? That's all. Now, pop means it's just a pop operation, which means it's going to pop the whatever you have at the top of the stack, that will be popped. So how many other values you want, you can put inside. Okay. Now the question is, should the values be heterogeneous or homogeneous data type?
Homogeneous.
For the stack? Huh?
The I mean, the value can be heterogeneous, ma'am, because we will be concentrating more on nodes here, right?
No, but for a stack, it is always the values that you put inside, it has to be only homogeneous, right? So if you put int, it all has to be int. If you put character, it all has to be a character, right? That is for a stack. And for a queue also, it has to be homogeneous. Okay, this is data structures. Coming back, but then you can ask me why not I put the naming. These are just nodes naming as far as we consider in artificial intelligence. You can, if you consider these names as the names of the streets, here I can also put 1 as the street name, 2 as a street name. Instead of 4, I can put something like XYZ. Okay, if you treat it as a search algorithm, then that is different. But then when you treat it as a data structure, it can only be, the values should be only homogeneous, right? It should only be inside integers. Okay, so now quickly tell me what would be the value here. First value is 1. Then the second value, what you push inside is 1. It is going to be
4.
okay, yeah, 4. At
And
times
2.
this is working. Okay, yeah, 4, and then
3.
now what is on top of the stack?
4, so the child of 4.
Yeah, child of 4 is
3.
3.
okay,
Then 5.
okay,
Then again the child of 3, 6.
well, wait, after the child of 5 is here, then should I remove it?
Yes, ma'am. Because
Okay.
it doesn't have any left or right child. Yes.
Right. Now you just make a note of this. At any particular point in time, I'm going to give you a statement. At the max, I can hold only 4 values in a stack. We'll just check it out. Okay. There's a reason of telling this, because for DFS, we are going to say the asymptotic notation as a linear function, which is theta of d. Okay, the reason why is because in a stack, I'm going to say that at any particular point in time, though you add, you remove, whatever operations you perform on the stack, at any point of time, there'll be only 4 elements within the stack. Okay, but here that is not the case. You can, if you have, say for example, if you have 6 nodes, child nodes, then it is going to be 1 followed by all the 6 elements here. But then here, it depends on the depth. Okay, so that is the only difference. So now I'll start drawing it. So at 1, okay, now I have to remove 5. Okay, because that is on top and that doesn't have any child node. Okay, so now I'll start drawing it. So the first node I put is 1. And then from 1, I've gone to 4. From 4, the next element that I've added is 3. The next element I've added is 5. Okay, now I'll just name the values here. 1, 4, then 3, then 5. Okay, now I have to draw the lines. Okay, this part is done. Now I have to remove 5 from the stack, that being on the top of the stack, and that doesn't have a child node. So I come to 3. Does 3 have any more child nodes? Yes.
Yeah,
It has
6.
a 6. So I just add a 6 here, and it is added as a child of 3. So what should I do here is, I should add 6 here. And that's that 6 is added as a child of 3. Okay, now 6 is a final leaf node. So I cannot add anything more, so I just have to remove it from the stack. Now I come back, I am left with 3. Does 3 have any other child node? Can I add anything else which is not visited? Yes,
No.
I still have 2. So 2 is added here. Okay. Now, does 2 have any other child node to add? No. Though it has 1, it is already visited, so I'm not going to add. So I just remove 2 from the stack, and then I have to add it as a child to 3, correct? So I'm adding it here. As a child to 3, I am adding 2. So this part is also done. Then coming to 3, can I remove 3? Yes, because I don't have anything to add, so I just pop it out from the stack. Then coming to 4, I don't have anything to add on top, so I just pop it out. Then finally coming to 1, I just have to pop it out. Now push and pop operations are complete. The function call, which is empty of stack, is fulfilled, so I just have to exit the loop. Okay, this is how we implement it, right? So now this particular tree, what you have got, is called as the spanning tree, right? And this spanning tree is what is called as a DFS spanning tree. Okay, now in this particular DFS spanning tree, now if you are asked to search for a node, say for example, again here, if 3 was a goal node, then you will stop with this place and return only 1, 4 and 3 as your path, saying this is a fruitful search. Okay, now coming to the complexity, I just told you that complexity is simply theta of t, sorry, theta of d. Why is it? Because I have the depth is equal to 4. So 1, 2, 3, 4. Or if you say that I only count d is equal to 1 from this place, right? Leaving the root node, if you just start counting d is equal to 1 from this, so in that case, you have to put this complexity as d is equal, d plus 1. Okay, so very simple, because you have to include this node. So anyway, in simple terms, if you want to understand, just assume that DFS has a linear complexity, space complexity. Linear means this term is linear. Okay, but this is not linear, right? So now at this, why did I call it as linear? Now this d can be represented as 4 here. So the value of d here is what? 4. So when I say 4, at any particular point in time, this here you can easily figure out the complexity, but then here directly figuring out the complexity may not be that easy, right? So here any particular point in time, the value of d is equal to 4. Why? Because 4 elements only can be added to the stack. Though I removed 1, I can add 1 as a child. Okay, live nodes, maximum number of live nodes in the stack, whatever is present till the end of the program iteration is only 4. So I call it as D, right? So I think this complexity is clear now. Okay. Okay, so this is theta of d. Then coming to the space complexity here, b power d, you said you cannot follow. Now b power d is simply, okay, I'll give you another small example. Let us assume you have a tree like this. 1. Now quickly work out and tell me what are the elements of the queue. You add 1 to the queue, right? First. Then what else do you add? Now this is the graph itself. Okay. Now, okay, let me put 7 here because you should not. Okay. The child of 1 I should add. So the child of 1 is nothing but I can add something like this, right? 1 is already there. As a child of 1, I can add 2, I can add 3, I can add 4, 5, 6. Yeah, that's it. Okay, so here if you can check what is B here. What is B? The number of branches, right? K array we said. If it is 2, we said it is 2 array. Now this is 3, 4, 5. So 5 array. Okay. So this B is the branching factor, which we call it as array, ARY, K array. So here the value of K is 5. Okay. So B is 5 to the power of D. What does it mean to the power of D? 5 to the power of 1. So that would be the space complexity. So at any point in time, after you add all these, you're going to remove one element from the queue. Is that right? Then you have to expand your 2 more. So while expanding 2, you don't have anything. So you remove that. So maximum at one particular point in time, you can have maximum of 5 to the power of 1, which is 5. Now, if you just think, if you have as a child of 2, if you have 3 nodes, okay, that is also possible. But then you should not calculate that 3 nodes. What is the maximum nodes you have? Maximum arrays you have. It is maximum of 5. So you should only take that particular 5. So this is the maximum maximum space complexity. Got it? You cannot say that this particular node has only one link, so I'm going to change it as one array. No. So the maximum outlinks or the links that you have, which we call it as ARY array, so that has to be considered, and that value has to be used as the branching factor B here, or it is also called as K to the power of D. Both are same, right? In some books you'll be having it as K to the power of D, where K array, K value is used, or in some books you're going to call it as B to the power of D. Okay, so this is how you derive at it. Got it? Can we move on to the next problem? So given a problem, your thing is to find out the goal node. So how do you find out the goal node? You have to construct the BFS spanning tree or the DFS spanning tree. Then whether the goal node is there, you have to stop at that particular place, which means you have to say 1, 4, 3 is the sequence, path sequence to find the goal. This is how you have to present. Okay. Can we move on to the next problem? Yeah. So this is my next problem. So here, okay, this is easy only. Now give me your inputs. So first, 1 second. Okay, so can you just quickly implement the queue and tell me what will be there? So first of all, BFS. So what is added? 1. Then child is?
4 and 2.
Yeah, okay. Is it the same as this?
Yes, ma'am, it is.
Oh. Yes, okay. So we'll skip this. We'll move on to the next problem. Okay. This is, I've taken all these problems from the exercises only. So this is actually for uniform cost search, right? So uniform cost search is similar to your BFS I told. So you're going to search level by level, but then the only difference was it has some cost involved in it. Okay. So BFS means again you have to implement it as a queue data structure. Okay, what is the first node that I have to consider? Here, instead of taking it as a queue data structure, directly you can go and draw the search tree itself. The spanning tree. Why? Because I'll tell you the reason. The first node here is your start node. We assume it to be yes. From S, where do we go?
B, A.
Okay, you can go to A, B. This is 6 here. To D, it is 6. Okay. So what is the path you choose? You have to choose a path to A, right? Because that has got the least value here. Okay. Then what is the next step? From what is this? A. Okay. Next step, where should I go? So from S to A, I've gone. Then from A to, I can go to B or A to G1. Okay. From A to B, if I go A to B, yeah, that is the shortest path. Next step, I have to go the A to B, it is 3. So the total path till now is what? Till B, SAB, it is 8. Okay. So from B, where can I go? Okay. Now just listen. From you have reached B now. Okay. Now just compare. From S to B, it is 9. Okay. But S to B, through A, you have come, which is 8. Okay. Still, this is less. Fine. Then what is the next thing? Here you have the least cost is S to D. Okay. So you have to explore S to D. Can you understand why? Because as of now, the total path is 8. But then here you have the total path to be equal to 6. Okay. So now I have to explore the next minimum path. So the next minimum path simply says that I have to explore D. Got this point? It is not that I keep expanding the same thing again and again, but then every time I have to ensure that the total cost covered is very minimum. So S to D, the total path here is 6. Now from D, where can I go? From D, I can go to C, or I can go to E. D, I mean,
And
C
S,
is 2.
And
Yeah, but S is already visited. No, so you're not supposed to go to S again. So D means, I mean, C means it is 2. E is also 2. So which one do I choose? Any one randomly. Okay. So let us assume I choose C. D to C cost is 2. Okay, this is also done. Next, what should I do? Now calculate the total cost. So it is 8 here. This side also 8. Next, so you have to, you can either expand B or expand C. That is left to you. Okay. Now let us see from B to C. Where can I go? If I choose B, then I can go to C. Okay, but then I cannot go to C because this has to be a spanning tree. So, and it is already visited. Okay, so I'm not going to C now. So from B, that's all. No other path. So B, I am not supposed to take. Then coming to C. So C, yeah, from C I can go to F. I can go to G2. That's all. And I can go to S. But since S is already visited, I'm not going to visit S again. So from C, I'm going to choose G2. So from C, it is G2. So G1, G2, G3 are all my goals. But listen, but we have now achieved, we cannot move to G1 at all. That is a not reachable goal. So from C, I've come to G2. And the total cost of it is 5. Okay. And from B, that's it. I cannot go to, I'm not expanding this any further. And obviously, if G1 happens to be my goal, this goal node was not reached. That is, I know that it is not reached only at the end of the solution, not now. Okay. And then let us try expanding further. Now the total cost here is 8 plus 5, 13. Okay, let it be there. Now, can I go anywhere from C? The next path? Yes. I can reach F. So I'm going to reach F from C. So I'll put an F here. So the cost is 7. Okay. Then from F, I can go to D, but it is already visited, and I can go to G3. Okay, the total distance is 8 here. So one goal is reached, the second goal is also reached, but then one more, the last goal G1 is not reached. So the solution will return that only 2 goals is reached. Now what is the total cost of reaching G2? So it is nothing but 8 plus 5, 13. What is this path cost called as? G of n or h of n? What is that you have to use for UCS? The term G of n represents path cost. Okay. And h of n represents heuristics, which you will not be using it for UCS. Okay. So this is going to be G of n, which is equal to 13. G of n for the node, here it is G2. And G of n for G3 is 8, 15, 23. Okay. So this is how you have to expand it. So again, you can see that this is a spanning tree that you have formed. And for the spanning tree, you have to calculate the cost of it. Okay. Is this clear? Now we'll move on to the next problem. Okay, since I started explaining it as a queue, right? So since this is a data structure which is queue, but then you have a cost associated with each of the queue. So if you can consider this as a BFS, then is it what would be the complexity for uniform cost search? Space complexity. Level by level, we are searching A or D. Okay. So when it comes to A, you're using the cost term here, and then you're going to A. Then again, here also you can see based on the cost, you're deciding the path. So it is actually a level search, which means it is the same as BFS. But then the only difference here is it has some associated cost involved in addition to the normal queue implementation. Okay, so what would be the cost of it? What would be the complexity of it? Space complexity. It is going to be B to the power of D, right? Is this not the same thing as we saw here? B to the power of D, the space complexity for a BFS search. Okay, the same thing, I'm putting it here. It is B to the power of D, space complexity, because this implements only your BFS. Okay, but then one small addition, small change I'm going to introduce. Instead of D here, okay, instead of putting it as B to the power of D, I'm just going to introduce a terminology saying B to the power of C star. Okay. Asymptotic notation. Theta is used. B to the power of, okay, C I'm using. Some small bias I'm introducing. I'm going to call it as E. Okay. So C star is nothing but the cost function here. Okay. So this is going to be the complexity for the asymptotic complexity theta for uniform cost search. Got it? It is actually BFS. So, but instead of B power D, instead of taking it as a depth, you're going to introduce the cost term. That cost term is introduced as C star, which means that's the optimal cost, and optimal cost by E. That E is nothing but a small bias that can be introduced. Okay, understand this for this particular implementation. Then moving on. Okay, similar kind of problem. Fine. Now, for this problem, just give me a quick answer, or you can do it and give me an answer. By the time I'll finish this attendance, or I'll keep attendance for the last 5 minutes. Okay. Now, quickly give me an answer for BFS. You start with A node. Okay, and and you have to go up to your G node. Okay, so how do I do it? The first node is A, then the next node is, can you give me the answers, please? A2. Can I go to
B?
B? Okay.
Yeah, okay.
Then D. All these are childs of A. And I can also go to G.
G. Yeah.
Okay. So these are the 3 child nodes. If G happens to be my goal node, then probably once I reach G, I'm going to stop. Then coming to this Q. So then what should I do? I've added all the child of A, B, and B, D, and G. So then I can remove A. So I've added the node here. A is removed. Next, coming to B, the first in the queue. So B, there is B. Yeah. So B's child are E and F. Okay. So B's child is E and F. So I am adding E and I am adding F. Okay. That's all. Right. So A was a child of B. So I have to add B to this list diagram, and I am going to remove, sorry, this is B, and I'm going to remove B from the queue. Next, what should I do? Coming to D. So D has a child of A, already visited, F, already visited. So I'm not going to expand D. I'm just going to delete it from the queue. So A was the child of, D was the child of A. So that is done. Next, G. Coming to G, I don't have any child. I have child, that is E is one which is already visited. A is also already visited. Okay. So what can I do? I'm not going to add anything, but I'm going to remove G, and I'm going to add G as the child of B, is it? How did I get G here?
It's child of A.
Child of
A.
Child
Child
of
of
A,
A,
right?
ma'am.
Okay. Okay. Since this happens to be my goal node, I just stop at this place. I'm going to give it as A, B, and G. That's all. So the total number of steps taken to reach G is only 2. Okay, this is using a BFS spanning tree. Now similarly, if you construct a DFS spanning tree, what is the total number of steps that you take to reach your goal node? That is the next question. So quickly do it as a Stack implementation. So first, what should I add? I'm going to add A is my first initial node, so I'm adding A. Then the next value that I can add is the child of A, which is B or D. Now what should I add? Yeah, I can add D. Then what should I do? Child of D. I can add F. See, child of A, I can actually add B also. That is also right. But since I have added D, from D I'm going to F. Okay, from F, I can go to B or C, right? So that is left to me. So what do? I go to C. Okay, from C I go to H. From H, okay, from H I don't have anything. So what should I do? I have to remove H from the stack. Okay, then what should I do? I have to visit C. So I have to remove C because I don't have any other child nodes. So C is also removed. Oh, I didn't draw the diagram, sorry. So from A, I visited D. From D, I visited F. From F, I visited C, right? Yeah, C. And from C, I visited H. Now I have to remove H because I cannot visit anything from H. From C again, that is on top of the stack, so I'm popping it out. Then coming to F, can I add any child of F? Yes. What is it?
B.
Yeah, perfect. So I'm adding B here. Okay. Now from B, can I visit anything else more? Yes. I can visit E. Correct. So from B, I can visit E. And finally, from E, I can visit G. Now all the nodes are visited. Okay. Now on top of the stack, what is it? G. From G, I cannot go anywhere. So, oh, I forgot to draw this. Okay. Where did I stop? Till H I've put. Then I have removed H. Then I have removed C. Then from F, I visited B, right? So from F, I visited B. Then from B, I visited E and then G. So B, E, and G. Okay, now I found my goal node, but still let me complete it. So this is my goal node. Okay, so now from G, I'm not going anywhere, so I have to delete G. Then E also, that happens to be my final node, so that is deleted. Then B on top of the stack, I have to remove it. Then coming to F. So F is the top of the stack now, so I have to pop F because I cannot add any child nodes. Then D is the top of the stack, so I have to remove D. Then finally A is on top of the stack, that is removed. Now my stack is empty. Okay, so this condition is fulfilled. Now this tree happens to be my DFS spanning tree. So this DFS spanning tree. Okay, how many steps did I take to reach to goal node? It is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So the total number of steps taken is 5 steps, and the path taken is A, D, F, B, E, and G. Okay, so this path you have to mention. So it is A, D, F, B, E, and G. Okay, so this sequence has to be mentioned, path has to be mentioned. Now, as far as space complexity is concerned, which one do you think is very good? B to the power of D or D? Which is good?
D.
It's confused here. Yeah, DFS is good as far as space complexity is concerned. But then as far as okay, we'll come back to time complexity later. Now coming to this Okay. Here, this BFS takes 2 steps only, but then this takes 5 steps, right? But then this is space complexity. Okay. Now coming to time complexity, T of n. We never spoke about the time complexity. We only spoke about the space complexity here, order of b to the power of d and order of d. Now coming to space complexity, you just have to note one thing, that the time to search a particular goal node, it is nothing but b to the power of d. Okay, in both the cases. Now I'll tell you how you have to interpret this b to the power of d. So again, I'm going to use theta notation only here. Okay, so here it is b to the power of d. Now the point is, when I say BFS, okay, so when BFS I say, then this happens to be b to the power of the levels, whatever the levels you're going to search. Okay, but then when I take it as DFS, I'm going to call it as the depth I have to search, right? So here the level has to be introduced. Here I'm going to introduce the total depth. Okay, so you just have to remember that. But then it's going to be b to the power of d. Only the variables that I'm going to use, you can change it probably. Here you can call it as the maximum depth, or here you can call it as the level, b to the power of l. Okay, now coming to another most important question, whether the problems are complete, either BFS or DFS. So coming to optimality and completeness, we have seen time and space complexity. So when I say completeness, okay, DFS is complete. Okay, DFS is also complete, but then if the length of this depth, right, if it is very long, very lengthy, almost infinite, won't it be a wastage of time traveling till the depth n instead of going for BFS? If that is the case, you call it as the solution is incomplete. Okay, got this point? Actually, when you're talking about completeness, both BFS and DFS will return a solution. But when DFS will not return a solution is if the goal node happens to be at the nth depth, in which case the depth is too long. In that case, you call it as it is not complete. Okay, then the next answer that you have to answer is whether it is optimal or not. The moment you say BFS is complete, you're going to return a solution, and that solution will be optimal. Okay, similarly, coming to DFS, the moment you say it is complete, when it is complete, if and only if your depth height is limited, not otherwise. If your depth is too long, in that case, when you say it is not complete, you will say it is not optimal. Got the point? So you will say it is not complete and not optimal if and only if the depth is too long, or too, what do you say, too deep. Okay, otherwise it is complete. Got it? So just a quick comparison talking about the completeness. So which is complete, BFS or DFS? Assuming a infinite depth, which is complete? Assume you have your depth to be too deep. So can you call BFS as complete? Yes, it is complete. DFS is not complete. Okay, then optimality. Optimality is finding the solution very fast. I mean, best possible solution. So since you say this is complete, it is obviously optimal. But then since you say this is incomplete, you cannot call it as optimal. Okay, then coming to space complexity, which is space efficient, BFS or DFS?
DFS.
Perfect, because it is a linear order of b to the power. I mean, it has an order of d, not order of d, theta of d. So that becomes a linear combination. So that is space efficient, whereas DFS is not space efficient, because this is b to the power of d. Okay, compared to BFS, DFS is not that space efficient. Then coming to time complexity, both are b to the power of d. Okay, b to the power of d will be time efficient for BFS if the level is limited. So in that case, if the level is limited, both the cases you're going to put a tick. But here we all assume that DFS, it is not. Yeah, you had a very big. Okay, now give me an answer for this. B to the power of d. Okay, if d is equal to 5 in BFS also, that same time is going to be taken. And if this particular thing, right, DFS in which you have 1, 2, 3, 4, yeah, depth is equal to 4 also, you're going to take the same amount of time. Okay, so b power d in both the cases. So in that case, this DFS is not that optimal. But then when you go for iterative deepening search, what is iterative deepening search? Limiting it by levels. Okay, 10. I'll stop with this. We'll again continue with this next class. Okay, now quickly answer your attendance. You have class now, is it? 1. Okay, I'll use your Google attendance. Go for the next class. Thank you.
Ma'am,
Yes, ma'am.
Roop Ashwin has a arrear exam, ma'am. So will he be marked absent?
Okay. He has to be
120.
given.
Also-
Press. No,
Roop
arrear
Ashwin.
means I'll give the attendance. I'll give the attendance.
Roop Ashwin, ma'am.
You just message it, no? No, you just message it. Now I'm going to college. I'll go there and give the attendance.
Okay.
Okay. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
Ma'am? Hello, ma'am?
Yes. Yes, ma'am.
Ma'am, 19%, ma'am.
By specifically giving 19%.
No, because it's my role register.
Okay. I'm not calling for attendance. I'll take it from Google Meet attendance.
Okay.
Ma'am, 95 is OD, ma'am.
Okay, you go for the next class.